Welcome back to another exciting episode of Thriller Bitcoin.
Let's go!
Today I'm here with Super Testnet.
Howdy, Car. How you doing today?
Hey, how you doing?
Dude, it's best day ever.
Really?
Dude, yeah.
Why?
Well, because I got all my memories from the previous days, which are almost all good, plus new ones that I got made today. So just keep on piling on good memories every day.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. It's also the worst day for the same reason. It's backwards.
I wanted to do this podcast because I haven't seen you in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a bit.
Yeah.
My dad died 2 weeks ago, and so I went to the funeral, and then I hung out with my family for a while and helped out as much as I could there. And now I'm back.
Yeah. I was praying for you the whole time, Super.
I appreciate that. It helped a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us were, like, first we were in shock, and then we're in, I know I felt a little bit in shock, and then,
well, it wasn't that long ago, maybe a month and a half, that I went to visit my parents to help take care of my dad because he seemed to be in the throes of, like, it could be his last couple of weeks. And I remember telling you guys he might not make it very long after that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
yeah. Sometimes these things happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like when my cousin passed away in 2020, like we were all sad. Like he died tragically in a car accident, and and like that changed a lot for everybody. At least my family here in Austin. And I remember thinking at the time, like I was mourning for like 2 weeks. It was tough. He was like my brother, and I remember like after that 2 weeks, I came out of it. And I literally felt like I didn't have any time to waste. Like life was too short for me to continue on doing these, like, working my fiat job and stuff. And that was like one of the things that really got me going down in 2020, like just to go do my own thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes these things have a silver lining.
Yeah, is that what that is?
I don't know.
I've never. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Dark cloud has a silver lining usually means that something good comes after the bad.
Yeah. We don't have to talk about it too much, but I just wanted to, bring it up and let you know that, we're here for you. We were always here for you. You know that.
Thank you.
It was funny because I left the door open for you, like, the last week because I guess you hadn't responded in a while. So like, I think it was like the last 4 days. The second week I was like, well, maybe he'll come back and I'll leave the door I'll leave the top unlocked so he can come in.
Oh, that's sweet. Car was kind enough to give me a key to his house, but his house has double locks. And so my key only unlocks one of them. And if he doesn't want me there, he can just lock the other
That's
lock.
not true. You've always, have I never not answered the door? No. Yeah.
But
you wake me up.
I did wake you up once,
Yeah.
but that was there have been a couple times where the top lock was locked. That's what I mean.
Oh, okay, yeah, but yeah, I had left it open, and then Lamp was there.
Lamp still around?
Lamp's not doing too well. He's like burned on one side. I remember when I put him outside. I think I left him outside for too long. He's kind of burnt on one end.
Lamp,
still growing.
By the way, for those who aren't aware, Lamp is Car's plant. And he named him Lamp, which I think is a great name for a...
Well, actually, AK named him Lamp. I just continued with the name. Yeah. I talk to him all the time. He's actually a really cool plant.
Okay.
He's great. I saw him this morning. He's a little burned on one side, so I just been putting him... I put him back inside.
Poor little plant.
Poor little Lamp.
Anyway.
Yeah, anyway. No, yeah, anyway, so... Yeah, so... I kind of want to ask you, like, I actually have some questions this time.
Sweet.
But it's I think it's kind of cool. When you built the name Super Testnet, like, I feel like it's become like this thing, right?
I don't
well, let me ask the question first.
Okay.
I feel like it's become this thing, right? And you've killed Super Testnet multiple times at this point. Like, it's a thing. Did you, when you first built it, did you know like all this stuff, like they were gonna do it this way, or is just kind of like, because I always wonder, like you hear like Rockstar Dev is gonna kill his NIM and stuff like that, like in October, whenever he's gonna do it, August, I forget which one it is. Is this a reoccurring thing inside the Bitcoin developer space where like people will retire their NIMs?
I don't know. I know that one of the things I tried to do before I made that name was I tried to make different names for each social media platform I used.
Oh.
But when I made the Super Testnet one, I liked it, and I added a GitHub for it, and then I added what was another? I did like a Discord was the same one, and a couple of other ones, and that NIM got very popular, and I was like, well, I don't want it to be a very popular NIM. So I killed it on some of the platforms where it was popular. I killed it on Twitter and I killed it on Telegram. I still use it on Discord and I still use it on GitHub.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. So
wait, I thought you made a new GitHub.
I did make a new GitHub under a new NIM, and I've released I've released some stuff under that new NIM as well.
But no one knows who it is.
I suppose there are probably a few who do.
Oh, really?
Probably.
That's cool. Do you think that's is that a normal thing in Bitcoin, like to do that?
I don't know.
I feel like
I suspect there's probably at least 6 Bitcoiners who do it. So,
did you hear about the news of was it Peter? He's a Bitcoin Core developer.
Peter Wheel.
Yeah, he stepped down.
Yeah, he was one of the people who was able to push code changes into Bitcoin Core. Or into its GitHub page anyway, and he can no longer do that. He gave up his rights or whatever. That's not like civil rights, but the GitHub rights. He gave up his GitHub access to do that, and then they gave it to someone else. Gloria Zhao is a Bitcoin developer. I don't know much about her, but she got added in his place. She got his key.
Oh, so there's only a certain amount of keys. That's how that works, or how does that?
I think that GitHub has these things that I think are called administrators, and you can have, I think a project can have as many administrators as you want. Administrators can add other administrators. Each administrator has to have a GitHub account, and then the key, quote unquote, all it means is that if they log into their account, they can push changes into this GitHub page, into this GitHub code base. So they removed Peter from the list of administrators and added Gloria to the list of administrators. So now if she goes to Bitcoin or github.com/Bitcoin, she can make changes.
Wow.
Whereas for most people, you can't make changes directly. You can propose changes, and then one of the 6, or I think it's 6 people who is an administrator can approve your changes or add them in.
How do they, I don't know if you know about this, like how do they pick those people, or how does that even, like how does one actually step down from that? Because I know there's a history of it, but like, yeah, how does that actually like work, like in the real world, I guess?
I don't know how it actually works. If in my imagination, I would guess it would work. A simple way to do it would be to have the contact information of the other admins, and then if you want to get removed, you say, I don't want to be part of it anymore, and any admin can remove any other. Oh, okay. So they just, one of them goes in and removes you. I don't think you can remove yourself. Maybe you can, but so if you can remove yourself, you could have done that. You could have just clicked remove me from this list of administrators, and then one of the other admins has to add a new replacement person. So they could have talked amongst themselves and be like, who do we want to add as someone who can make changes to this GitHub page without approval? And they picked Gloria. So that's who it is.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah, when I saw the news, I was like, knew it was big at the time. We were covering on RHR, and it was like breaking news, but like it was, I still didn't know exactly like what it meant as far as like what you just said, but it's a good explanation of it.
Yeah, also remember that Bitcoin Core is just one, it's the most popular, but it is still just one implementation of a Bitcoin node. And I don't recommend that people immediately download the latest version whenever there is an update, because that gives developers the ability, if any of those 6, if they propose or add in a malicious change, and you just download immediately the latest version of Bitcoin on Bitcoin Core's GitHub page, you'd get the malicious upgrade. So there's a certain amount of trust that if you choose to download the latest version, you're putting a certain amount of trust in the latest set of developers, and I think that's not great. So don't download the latest version, or consider using an alternative implementation other than Bitcoin Core that helps reduce the amount of trust placed in the 6 or so people who have commit access.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
The admins of that.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Solid advice. Mm-hmm. I remember one time you told me a long time ago. I don't know if you still believe in this theory, but you had a theory of like who Satoshi was.
Sure. You want to talk about that?
I just want you to. I don't know. I know how you always like. You will have this thing, and then you'll be like, I don't think that anymore, and then you have this new thing that replaced it. Mm-hmm. Do you have a new thing that replaced the old one, or is it still the same thing?
Still the same thing, but to as a reminder, I don't think that the theory is correct. I never did. I think it is probably maybe a 30% likelihood of being correct, but it is, of all the possibilities of who Satoshi is that exist in my mind, none of them do I think are like greater than a 50% chance.
Do you want to explain it to everybody listening?
Yeah,
it's a really good theory, I think.
The theory, it's a well-known one, is that Satoshi was a group of 2 people, Hal Finney and Nick Szabo. And they worked together to create Bitcoin Core, or to create Bitcoin, and then release it under that pseudonym of Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, again, I don't think this theory is correct. It's just, of the theories I have had and have heard of, this one has more likelihood in my mind than the others, but it still doesn't breach 50%. I think it's only like 30% likely. So with some support for this theory comes from, initially, they were 2 of the people who were on the cryptography mailing list. I don't think there were that many. I think there was around like 40 people who were part of that. I don't know why I have that impression that it was so small. But at some point I got the impression it wasn't a big group, and whoever it was probably on that mailing list.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Because that's where they released it, right? They had to be following it in some capacity. So if you narrow it down to those 40, and then you say, okay, 2 of the guys in there were Hal and Nick Szabo, that's the first thing. Secondly, Hal and Nick had both proposed digital currencies before. Nick had proposed BitGold, and Hal had proposed reusable proof of work, I think.
Really? Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so they had they were both some of the people who were working, like within the set of people who were in the cryptography mailing list. They were also among the set of people who were working on on like precursors to Bitcoin. So that's another thing that goes in favor of it being them. Nick's BitGold is incredibly similar to Bitcoin. Similar enough that it could have been that like he made this. He never wrote any code for or at least he never released any code for BitGold. But it is possible that he started working on it, and then like when you write a proposal for how to do something and you start actually implementing it, you tweak it, you tweak your thing. And so the differences between BitGold and Bitcoin are small enough that I think they could have been tweaks, like small improvements that he made while implementing it, that he realized, oh, this would be a simpler way to do this, or this would be a better way.
Yeah.
And so like the difference between Bitcoin and BitGold could simply be that this is the implementation of BitGold, and he found a couple of tweaks to improve it during the implementation. So that like the strong similarity of those two seems to me like that could play a factor in Nick being Satoshi. Also, some of the language carries over. Like when he proposed BitGold, this was he called it gold because he thought it would be you could get a natural price, a real world price for a currency if it was scarce. And that's why he called it BitGold, is he was going to make one that didn't have that had a capped supply, like gold does. And in the Bitcoin white paper, when that got released, it never mentions the supply cap, but what it does mention is mining. It says like Bitcoins can be issued through a process called mining, and I think that's a carryover
from BitGold.
I think that is a carryover from BitGold, where it was explicitly supposed to be like gold, and you had to mine it with proof of work. And that same language got carried over into Bitcoin because it's actually the same thing. Or if this theory is true.
Yeah.
Satoshi also said in one of his blog posts or Bitcoin Talk forum posts that he intended Bitcoin to be an implementation of BitGold. So there's that. He never cited BitGold in the white paper as a source, but he did say it was an implementation of Nick's idea in his forum posts. So even if he's not Nick Szabo, it's still BitGold. Bitcoin is BitGold, just like with slight improvements.
So that, I remember you said, okay, so that's why it's probably
why he's probably involved.
And then okay, now why is the how?
And where does Hal come in?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So Hal, of course, is cited in the white paper. So like Bitcoin's definitely an implementation of Hal Finney's reusable proof of work concept, which gets cited in there. I think Nick, if Nick needed help implementing this stuff, Hal would be a great person to go to because he'd already invented a digital currency that was based on proof of work, which is RPOW, reusable proof of work. So there's that. To me, it is significant that Hal was the first person to get on board with Bitcoin. Like he was like one of the first people to reply to the post and say, "This is a great idea. Let's work on this together." He actually started working on Bitcoin immediately, not just by running it, but also by contributing code to it under his own name. Mm-hmm. He was the first person to receive Bitcoin, and also I think that he was the one I suspect, if this theory is true, who proposed the name Satoshi Nakamoto, because he had a neighbor, a guy in his neighborhood, like a few 2 blocks down and to the left of him, was named Satoshi Nakamoto, and this guy was also a programmer who worked in cryptography. He was specifically a cryptographer who worked for a bank, and I suspect that he named him that in order to be covered. Like if anyone ever tries to figure out who Satoshi is, it'll be a rabbit trail that will lead to this other guy.
Wow, dude, that's like next level thinking there.
Yeah, if it's true. Yeah. Again, I don't think there's all these.
But you said there was another thing too. I remember on the drive back, you had mentioned that it was because of the code and then the type of communication in that code, as far as like.
Oh right,
yeah. That was to me. I was like, oh really?
Yeah, the programming language, the Bitcoin, the programming language with which you write Bitcoin transactions is called Bitcoin script, and it's based on a programming language from the 70s called Forth, which was used for satellite communications.
Yeah.
And I suspect that he chose to use this language because he was familiar with it. Whoever wrote the real Satoshi Nakamoto was familiar with this programming language from the 70s. Now, when you're going through college and you're learning computer science, your teachers are going to teach you the programming languages that they know, that they're familiar with, and you're going to learn those. And so I think he grew up maybe in the 80s. Like his teachers would have been familiar with this one from the 70s, and they would have taught it in the 80s, and that kind of lines up with when Hal Finney or Nick Szabo would have been in college. Also, I don't know why he chose that programming language, but it's designed for ground to satellite communications. And so it's designed it assumes that there are certain delays between the time you send the instruction and the time you get a response from the other device. And perhaps Mr. Satoshi thought that like there would be a small number of nodes, they'd be spread around the world, and they might not have instant communications between each other. I don't know, that choice of programming language, like if he had been a younger guy, if he had been, I don't know, in his 20s, right, I think he would have used like JavaScript or built his programming language based on JavaScript or based on Python or one of the ones that my generation is familiar with.
Right.
But he didn't. He used a really old one, which suggests to me that he was in his 50s or 40s or so.
Yeah, you could even look at like which universities were teaching that and at that time and. Mm-hmm. I mean, you really could go down that rabbit hole and really find it if you really wanted to.
Right.
But then and then you would have to, and then that's if you believe that the mailing list was accurate, and then of course, this correlate the data.
All of these are like speculations upon speculations upon speculations. It's certainly possible for someone in his 20s to learn satellite programming languages, even old ones. None of this is set in stone, but to me, it seems like it is, at least of the various theories, that one's the one that I think is the most likely. But I still think it's not that one. I think it's probably something I haven't thought of is more likely than that. Yeah.
It's, to me, when you told me that, I was like, man, I like that one. That's my favorite one.
Sure, makes sense. Mine too.
What do you think of this bear market right now, Super? Do you think we're in a bear market? Do you look at it like that in bear markets and like bull cycle? Do you look at it like that?
A long time ago, I decided that my definition of a bear market was any time we're not at an all-time high. So to me, we only spend very, very brief moments in a bull market.
Oh, like in 2021 from like February to what, June something?
No, because
we started crashing in June, right?
I don't remember when we started crashing, but I do know that you touch the all-time high. You set a new all-time high, and it lasts for a few seconds, and then you're slightly below it again. And at that point, to me, you're in a bear market. The moment you go below the all-time high, it's bearish.
Yeah,
you got to be printing new highs every day in order to be in a bull market. This is a silly definition. I have a silly definition because I don't actually care about whether we're in a bull or a bear market, and so I just made up something that doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, I know you don't care. Have you been? You don't use Twitter anymore, right? Like at all anymore at this point?
No, I use. It's probably that and Telegram are the social networks that I most frequently.
Do you follow any of like the? I know you follow a lot of developers and stuff like that, but do you follow any of like the regular Bitcoin Twitter accounts, like the people that make the most noise? I guess would say.
I don't think I follow developers who make a lot of noise.
No, not developers. I mean, just like regular Bitcoin personalities on Twitter. Like, do you ever see any of the?
Yeah, I see
all the craziness that's going on. And
I saw the Nick Carter drama that happened recently.
Oh, so, you did?
I think the people who I do follow interact with that stuff enough that it gets into my feed.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What do you think about all that stuff? Did you see what like I was talking to Ben about it. He was saying that I don't know if he said that Ellen URL could do the same thing that this new like dynamic thing was doing. I don't know how much you looked into it, but
dynamic thing?
That's what this like Ethereum project was. It was like some kind of like single sign-on thing or whatever. Anyway, it really threw a wrench in like Bitcoin Twitter the past couple of weeks, and now, man, it's kind of hard just to get anything out of Bitcoin Twitter at this point. I don't know.
I find it pretty easy to not to get good stuff out of it. I don't do a lot of cultivation in my feed either, though. I get Bitcoin drama enters into my feed sometimes, but I find it easy enough to ignore. I think that the algorithm might watch how long you stay looking at certain things.
Oh, really?
And then if you don't spend a lot of time looking at a thing, it doesn't recommend it as much or doesn't put it in your feed as much. And so maybe I get a really good Twitter feed without cultivating it because the algorithm just sees that I pay attention more to the
dev stuff.
More to the dev stuff. And so it doesn't show me even when they comment on drama or, Nick Carter stuff, it just sees that I don't pay attention to it, and it wants my attention. So
like, I think this past weekend I actually like opened up Twitter and then like just bombarded with all this like political stuff and all sorts of craziness. I just jumped right off. It's just unbearable, dude. I don't know, man. It's just I'm hanging out at Stacker News more these days.
That seems good. I was really excited recently because there's someone, I think it's Kevin Rook, who posts every time he posts something on Stacker News. He also posts a link to it on Reddit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's him, and it's probably not every time, but often he cross posts things from Stacker News to Reddit, to the Bitcoin subreddit. And recently I saw a post that had the same title on both, posted by him on Stacker News and on Reddit, and the one on Stacker News had 14 comments, and the one on Reddit had 1 comment. Wow. And so that suggested to me that maybe at some point this Bitcoin subreddit is not going to be the place where people hang out and talk about Bitcoin stuff anymore. Maybe it's going to move over to Stacker News, which I would prefer because it's made by a friend of mine.
Yeah. So. Do you think Twitter has a possibility of going down that route too, where it just becomes too much noise, or you think it's still?
No, Twitter's different because on something like Stacker News or Reddit, it's designed for not. I was about to say essays, but that's not quite right. It's more like, I don't know, really thought out conversations.
Wordy stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and Twitter's not for that. It's for funny memes and hot takes and stuff.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, mostly. So I don't think you get a lot of considered discussion on Twitter. And I think people will go to Stacker News or Reddit or other similar things for that. And for funny and humorous things, I think they'll go to Twitter. So,
do you think Nostr will help? Do you think it'll hurt? Do you think some of these new clients are coming out like Damus? I've been playing with Damus. It looks really clean, man. I showed you today.
That's the first time I've seen it because I have an Android device and he hasn't released an Android version of it yet. But Carr let me play with his iPhone Damus app, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I forget your question. You said, do I think Nostr will help?
Do you think Nostr will help with some of that, or you think that's just the way this whole Twitter thing is supposed to play out? Like, because I know they're working on their own kind of. I forget what the name of it, but it's. Or do you think it's just everything moves over to Nostr because it's like an open protocol, right? So it allows messaging over this protocol, and as long as you have relays and.
I'm not sure. I think that alternatives to Twitter will grow popular among people who notice Twitter's problems, its censorship problems. And I don't think there's the number of people who notice those problems on Twitter is not negligible, but it's relatively small, I think. So because I think most people who use Twitter don't notice the censorship on it, or if they do notice it, it's not enough to drive them away from it. I think that most people will stay on Twitter for the foreseeable, part of the future that I can foresee, and not move to Nostr, or similar, less censorship heavy platforms. But yeah, I think they will gain a sizable. I think they will gain Nostr and similar protocols will gain people who do notice those problems and who do get driven away from it, and that might be, I don't know, 5% of the people who use Twitter might migrate to these other alternatives.
Yeah.
In the foreseeable future, and then after you get past a certain point, I don't think I can really realistically foresee anything anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe there is no hope for Twitter. Maybe it is what it is, and unless they, maybe
I don't think I said there's no hope for Twitter.
It sounded like you said that in so many words because it sounds like the only thing that can really kill it is censorship, right? They start censoring things, and they haven't been, at least not that I've seen as of late, but especially with all the political stuff that's on there these days.
I don't know what could kill Twitter. I haven't given a lot of thought to it. They certainly do a lot of censoring, but one of the things that I don't think many Bitcoiners realize is I think people subconsciously enjoy censorship.
Really?
I do.
Why do you think that for?
Because I think let me put it in a different way and see if this makes sense to you. People don't like spam filling up their feeds, right? I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
I think the majority of people don't like very, very loud and obnoxious members of their social circle to fill up their Twitter feed with things they're not interested in. The example that keeps coming back to my mind is like if I've got a grandpa, not a grandpa. I've got let's say I have a cousin or an uncle who's very racist and very loud about that on Twitter. I'm not going to spend a lot of time engaging with his racist posts, even though he posts them every day. And the Twitter algorithm is going to learn that, and it's not going to show them to me. Even if I don't click block or anything, it's just going to see that I scroll right past them, and it's going to like not put them into my feed because it wants to put things into my feed that I spend time on and pay attention to and interact with. So that is a form of censorship, though. When you don't show someone's posts to whoever they send it to, that's censorship. And I think people like it. I think people like not seeing the things that they don't want to see.
I have this really dumb idea. I'm going to run it past you, and hopefully you can just shoot it down, and then I can stop thinking about it. I think Twitter could be solved with colors.
Okay.
And so, like, if you look at a tweet, there's always like these emotions behind a tweet. Sometimes there's no emotion at all. You can usually express this with a GIF or like a picture or whatever like that. But sometimes it's just words. I think if there was like a color wheel for different types of emotions that people could attach to their tweet, I think it would help where like you could literally have, I'm going to use damus as an example, but you could literally have like this, right? And let's say this tweet right here was a really aggressive tweet. I can color it red as a background color, and then underneath that's a really light tweet. Maybe that's like a light, subtle pastel pink or something.
Dude, that's a great idea.
But let me tell you, this is where I've been thinking it through, is like, okay, let's say we have a feed, just one feed, and they're just different colors, right? You see a lot of red today. You see a lot of light pink, or whatever the gamut is of the color wheel for that day. And then maybe at the very top, you can select the different colors that you want. So maybe you're just in a mood to like get some good news. Maybe you just select like a light pastel pink, and it's just like nothing but great news. Maybe then right above it's like, maybe you see like you want green, which is like, I don't know, fresh content, and then you just hit the green color wheel, and it's just all green stuff that comes in from your feed. I think this can be gamed, obviously, because people can say like, oh, this is green, and it breaks the whole system. But I think if you introduce something like Lightning or some of these other open protocols, then maybe possibly you could figure out a
way to align incentives.
Yeah,
maybe. You know what? I like it, and let's make a client for Nostr that has where you can set the color temperature of your post. And I think it could be solved that way, because I don't think it can be algorithmically solved. Obviously, they've been trying to do this for like 30 years, 20 years at this point. Boys, it's not working. Girls, it's not working over there. I mean, it kind of is, but I think it's up to the user to make that choice. It's if you introduce choice on your platform, good things can happen. Too much choice, right? But like, I think if you just introduce choice, give them options. People like options, and I don't know, man. I think people say they like options, but I look at I know very many people who are happy to say they like options. When you look at what they do, and they're just like mindlessly. I'm gesturing here in a way that, of course, the camera can't see, but I'm imagining myself, or I'm flicking through an imaginary cell phone and looking at it with eyes glazed over, and occasionally, smiling and laughing at something. And there's no thought at all involved in what I'm doing. Like, there's a lot of people who are like that. Then you're like, do you want choice? I'm like, yeah, choice is a good thing, but they don't really want choice. They just want to be mind numb and be entertained.
Right. I think where we're at now in society, just in general, we don't have to get too into it, but like, I think people just want options these days. I think maybe there was a time where we didn't need options, but I think especially when it comes to this social stuff, I know.
I like giving people options.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah.
I also really like that a platform like Nostr is something where if I have a new idea for a feature for it, it doesn't take much to make that feature a reality, because open protocol. I can make my own, and I have made my own Nostr client, and I can add new ones.
Yeah, what is it? You told me that today. What is it? What is the?
It's called vanilla-js-nostr. It's on my GitHub, and it's about the simplest possible Nostr client. It's got a place for you to follow someone, and it'll show you all their posts, and then you can make your own posts. And it's just black text on a white page. There's no graphics. There's nothing. No attempt to make it look pretty.
How long do you think it took Fiat Jaf to create Nostr? Do you know like how long it took him? Is that something that's well? I know you made protocols.
It's still sort of under
but-
construction. To
yeah,
some degree.
it's work in progress. But like to get it to where it's at now, like where you can start creating clients for it, like how long does something like that take? Super. Does that take years? Does that take like months? Or
I don't think it took him years. I think it took him months. But I say that, and yet there were a lot of precursors to Nostr that Fiat Jaf had made.
like what?
Well, before I answer that, let me modify my previous statement that he made and some of his friends had made. So one of the precursors to Nostr was an idea or a plugin that Ben Arc made for LNbits. LNbits is a wallet management tool for the Lightning Network, and it has this plugins page where you can install a bunch of different things for it. And one of the things that Ben Arc made for LNbits was a plugin called Diagon Alley, which is a marketplace. It's kind of like a Craigslist for LNbits, where you can list products and stuff. And when Ben made this, he needed a way to advertise, or that someone could go onto your LNbits instance, create a post that says like, I have a bicycle for sale for this amount. And he wanted it so it wouldn't only show up to users of that Nostr or of that LNbits instance. He wanted it to also show up for users of other LNbits instances. And Ben made this very simple protocol that passed text from one LNbits instance to another. And I think it was that Fiat Jaf saw and said, this should be its own protocol. Just the part where you send a message to an LNbits operator, and then he passes that message along to other ones, is a cool idea. So he took that out, split it out, and made Nostr based on that idea.
That's cool. So you kind of remixed it in a way.
He did. And another precursor was something that Fiat Jaf himself made, which was called Atlenium. And Atlenium, or at least I think this is a precursor. I don't know if Fiat Jaf thinks it is. But Atlenium is a WebSocket-based tool for writing contracts that where you can put some bitcoins into a contract on the Atlenium website, and then someone has to fulfill the terms of that contract in order to unlock those bitcoins and take them. In other words, they have to run some code for you. But when Fiat Jaf made this thing called Atlenium, he charges people money in order to upload their contract, upload the contract and upload the bitcoins that someone has to that are locked by that contract. And I always, at least when he came out with Nostr, I associated it immediately to that, because in both of them you have to upload some text to this to one person, and then someone else someone can download it over WebSocket from them. And Nostr was to me, it was a combination of those two ideas that gave birth to, we're going to do this thing that LNbits, or that the Diagon Alley extension in LNbits was doing, where it passes messages around from one person to another, but it was going to use WebSockets like Atlenium did for that message passing, and then Nostr was born from that.
That's cool.
So how long did it take? Well, how long did it take him to make Atlenium? Probably almost a year to make that. How long did it take Ben Arc to make the thing he made to make Diagon Alley? Probably a couple months. And then once he had both of those things in place, I don't think it took Fiat Jaf very long. It might have taken him 1 month, maybe 2, to reformulate those things into Nostr. But it wasn't finished immediately. He made it, and then we've updated it since then. Me and the other Nostr developers have talked about features we'd like to see added to it, and we've talked about problems with it, and then it keeps getting better. Do
they have a Nostr call, like a weekly call or a monthly call or anything, or is it just the Telegram?
It's more like monthly.
It's monthly? Oh, okay.
I don't think it's exactly monthly either, but it's there. I think there have been 2 of them so far.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but he started them. The first one was during Bitcoin Miami, I think, and then the second one was a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, there are Nostr dev calls.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting when you're saying all these like iterations. I don't know if they're iterations more. It's like a foundation of different things that he had done that all led to that. Mm-hmm. It's very much like an artist, how they think about building something that then leads their inspiration to somewhere else that they see somebody else do. And they're like, oh, I want to do something like that, but like different in my own way. And it's very interesting how I'm starting to see more and more. The longer I stay in the space, the more I'm seeing more and more devs pull from other devs as far as like that kind of like club. It's just like I don't know if it's a club, but it's like it's almost like you're in a like a studio.
Yeah.
And you're just pulling all these different ideas, and then you come around and look at it and you're like, oh, there's that. That's cool. Oh, that's a great idea. And like you just pull from these different places. It's a really cool thing to see. I've only just discovered that here recently. How that probably since Bitcoin plus how I see how you guys do that. It's very similar to when I was like in art school, where we would all be in like a classroom, like looking at everybody's art during our breaks, and like I'd give an advice and like listening to them. They come over and look at our thing and like, oh, you should probably do this. This is easier. You'll get much better shading on this.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen people
cool.
use it. I've used some stuff from Nostr in the development of things that I'm making. I'm using it for. I used it when I made my Bitcoin lottery game. I have users coordinate over Nostr. I'm trying to make a Bitcoin Uber, and I plan to use Nostr for coordination of riders and drivers over that.
Bitcoin. So wait. So I think you said that too fast. So Bitcoin Uber.
Yeah.
Super Uber. Is it? Would it be super? The naming, I guess.
Super.
Orange Death Pill. Orange Death Ride. It's a callback.
Suicide Lane.
Suicide Lane.
That's kind of a cool name for
Suicide Lane. Oh man, that sounds spicy. Yeah, Orange Death. Oh, you know what you call it? Did you ever see that movie Death Proof?
No.
Call it Orange Proof. That'd
Orange
be cool.
Proof?
That'd be cool. It's about the guy gets a ride and like
coming up with names is one of the funnest parts.
It is literally the funnest part. It's my favorite part. Terrible names. It's my favorite part. You come up with pretty good names,
dude. I called the Lightning vouchers thing from last month Lightning E-vouchers. I mean,
yeah, you had Orange Death Pill. You should have just kept it there.
I should have kept Orange Death Pill.
But that was cool. No, but so how do you plan on doing Uber decentralized?
Well, I don't know if it'll be decentralized yet, but my idea is that a user would open up their phone. Their phone would broadcast a message to Nostr with their location, and it would be like, I'm a rider, and I'm interested in finding a driver near me. I'd basically be with their messages, and here are my coordinates. And then they would pick a destination. Let's say they wanted to go to, I don't know, the YMCA. So they'd drag a pin on a little map, which that's the part I was working on today. And that would create a new Nostr message that says like, this user with this pub key wants to go to this destination, right? And then you'd post how much you're willing to pay for that. So I'll give $15 to it. So now you have all this information out on Nostr. There's a rider who is currently in these coordinates. He wants to go to these coordinates. Here's the distance between them, and here's the amount that he's willing to pay for that. So then you have drivers who are driving around, and they've each got their cell phones, and their cell phone can ring and be like, there's someone 2 miles from you who wants to go from here to here for this amount. Do you accept their thing? So I'm not sure what happens after that. I suspect because I'm not sure when the payment should happen.
That's what we were talking about today. Like, wouldn't it be like you could use Lightning Escrow, right? So it would hold it.
I could have the payer pay Lightning Escrow.
It wouldn't take more than 2 weeks.
They wouldn't actually pay Lightning Escrow, but they'd pay they'd pay the driver, but the driver wouldn't be able to settle the payment because Lightning Escrow would have the pre-image. And then once you get to the destination, or once one of their that's the part that I'm not sure of. Either if they both say, all right, I made it to my destination, and the driver's like, yeah, I dropped him off, then we release the funds, or if there's a dispute, then we check into what happened.
Oh, yeah, you're right, because there's that part, right? So maybe you would have to...
you can spoof your location on these apps. You can't really trust what either one says unless they both agree.
How do you fix that? But isn't that a problem
with
all these decentralized...
So that's why
you're like, I don't know. But isn't that a problem with all these decentralized apps, though? Like, isn't that the major problem with all these things?
Is dispute resolution?
It feels like
it's a big problem. It is a big difficulty with trying to make a decentralized app. But I don't know if... So then
you have to build a reputation system then? Is that how that's fixed?
In my mind, a reputation system is an alternative to escrow. If you trust, reputation is a way of saying, is this person worth trusting? And if you decide that because he has a 5-star rating, you trust him, then you don't need an escrow, because escrow is for two parties who don't trust each other. So if I do build it with a reputation system, then you don't really need escrow anymore, because you're establishing a way for the users to trust each other. Which is like, you can see how many rides he's done, you can see his rating. But the problem there, if you're using Nostr, is that it's really easy to spoof that. It's really easy to set up 15 different accounts that all give you a 5-star rating, because accounts are free on Nostr.
Right.
So I don't know. I haven't thought too far into that yet. I think I was just going to make something that actually does allow you to pay someone to give you a ride, and then try and figure out how to solve the scam part later, where someone doesn't give you a ride but does take your money.
I feel like we do need a decentralized version of Uber for sure.
That'd be great, but I haven't figured out probably the hard part of that, which is how to prevent disputes.
Yeah, or maybe whoever's listening to this can reach out to you.
Well, the guys from Arcade City have an idea for this.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about their...
Well, they already have a reputation system then, technically, right?
I don't know what they do. I think my current impression is that they have a Facebook group where people coordinate rides. And on Facebook, that might be part of how they deal with reputation, because on Facebook that you have to... I don't think it's easy to spin up new accounts and give yourself 5-star ratings all the time. Or maybe it is, but... maybe the people who are using Arcade City in this Facebook group know each other's usernames after a long enough time. And they're like, oh, Michael J is always reliable because I've used him before or something. I don't know. But I think right now it's all based on messages in a Facebook group, and they trust each other. The drivers all just hang out in there, and then they coordinate. People who want to ride go in there.
It's too bad they're using Facebook.
Right? Yeah, and I'm not sure how much of this is accurate. I've talked to Chris a couple of times about it, and he's coming into Pleb Lab soon. Okay. So I'm looking forward to learning more. But some of the things I'm saying about how Arcade City works are wrong, because I haven't actually used it, and I'm only going off a couple conversations and Twitter messages.
Yeah, we can save that for later. But interesting that. Yeah, it's interesting how you're thinking through that. I remember we were talking about it a few days ago, and you were like, "Yeah, it would be easy to make this. This is how I would do it." And then today you were showing me. I was like, "Oh, you actually were gonna do that? I thought you were just like saying it offhandedly." Because sometimes you'll say things and you'll be like, "Yeah, 2 weeks. I can do that through 2 weeks." I'm like, "But really?" And then today, lo and behold, you were like, "Yeah, look at it. It's working."
I got the map done.
Yeah, you got the map done. I was like, "Whoa!" So this is, it's like you said, it's not.
Yeah, but I hadn't thought ahead to
where we're
the scammy part. Like, there's going to be scammers probably, and I don't know how to deal with that yet. So,
dude, scammers ruin everything, dude.
Sure. Well, if you can get money for nothing, it's very tempting.
Yeah.
So it probably will take longer than 2 weeks, because I have to think of a solution to that.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's cool.
And there might not be a solution. That might be why these things haven't taken off yet. Or why no one's built a Bitcoin-based Uber, and maybe no one's thought of a way to actually verify that both riders got, like, the driver really took the rider to this destination, and neither one's lying.
Yeah, and then also you're not even laundering, right? Or could that be?
Oh, I'm happy to launder. That's fine with me. Launder all that stuff right through there.
I think sure he's kidding. Yeah. Interesting. What else have you been working on? Was that the main thing that you've been working on?
No, I just started that today because I got bored of the vouchers project.
Oh, the vouchers thing?
Yeah, I like 3 weeks ago, I made this Lightning voucher system where you can
Orange Death Pill.
Orange Death Pill, yeah, which is a much better name for it.
So tell people about it.
Yeah, so one of the difficulties with the Lightning Network is onboarding people. When you try to onboard someone, you're like, okay, download this wallet. Now I'm going to send you some Bitcoin. Create an invoice for me, and then you don't have any channels. Let's get you a channel. Like, there's a lot of things that can go wrong when you're trying to onboard somebody to the Lightning Network, and I thought that a voucher system might make this easier, where you create a voucher for, let's say, $10 in Bitcoin, deliverable over the Lightning Network, and a voucher is just a piece of text. So you give them that piece of text, and you have some wallet that can recognize a voucher, and then it just shows their balance increased by $10 because they can redeem that whenever they want and get the money out of the voucher. So I thought of this idea, and then I implemented a proof of concept for it. 3 weeks ago. Then my dad died, and so I went on vacation for 2 weeks, and I did a little bit of work on it. I made it so that there's like an optional pub key system where you can specify that the recipient has to prove that they know the private key to a certain public key, and that makes it more like a traditional. Makes it work more like how Bitcoin does, where you have to send somebody's public key. So I made that, and then I got bored of it and decided to make the Uber thing. So the voucher project just waiting for me to get interested in it again.
Yeah, I do that too. Mm-hmm. I like to jump around in different things, but lately I've been trying to really focus on getting the first thing done and then getting on to it's kind of like trying to get more disciplined about that. It's really hard though, because my mind is frantic with new stuff, new ideas all the time. I try to write it down as much as I can. Do you have that problem too? You have to so many ideas that you write them down, or do you just keep it all in your head?
No, I write them down.
You do? Okay.
Whenever I start a project, I make a Google Doc where I list out what I'm working on, what my next steps are, where my current status is.
Oh, you do? You go that far as
Yeah, and often I spec it out. Like I write, here's all the steps I need to take in order to get a working product, and then I'll start working based on that, and I'll start crossing things off. And I find that helps a lot because I often set a project down and work on another one because I get bored with it.
And then you go back and find out where you left off?
And then I'll go back and find out where I left off, and I'll read my own messages to my future self. I'm like, here's where I'm at, here's the next things I need to do. And I usually try, based on, Dusty Damon also does this, and he gave me a cool idea that I didn't used to do.
What is it?
I always try to leave myself an easy thing to start with next.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, and then
don't leave the full-on task of.
Don't leave the really hard thing. Just give yourself some really easy next step.
You're
like, okay,
that's a good idea.
That gets you into it.
That will ease you back into it.
Yeah,
dude. You know what's? I have this problem. I've been talking about it the last couple months, or not couple months, maybe about a month now. I have this problem where I will. These images will come in my head, and I try to write them down, like on my phone, and there'll be notes, and then I just won't remember. The word won't spring to mind the image. But if I type like a song, or if I type like a color, it'll come back. I'm honestly thinking, I've been thinking about it for the past 2 weeks, but I've just been thinking about it. This is the first time we'll be saying it. I'll probably be doing it, but thinking about just carrying like a sketch pad. So I can draw what's in my head, and then that'll be everything, as opposed to me writing down the words. It's very hard for me to write things down in my head that's all imagery.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Do you do that too with code in your head? Do you have that problem where like maybe code's in your head and then you like have to write it down, or it doesn't? Is it different?
It's different. Because what goes into my head is the English language version of what I want to make. And then I convert from English into programming, into code, what I want to do. So that the English, when you try and write out a specification in English language, it gets very, very detailed. You have to be very detailed. You have to say almost what sounds like programming. If the user does this, then this should happen, and if they don't do that, then this should happen. And you write out this branching logic in English of all the steps the program should take. Then you have to convert that into whatever programming language you're using. So that my specifications and the stuff in my head is in English, and then the implementation is in code.
Oh, so you write out the spec in your head? You have it like laid out more or less?
Yeah. Usually I do it in my head first, then I do it then I write that down.
That's
then I modify it a couple times, and then I start coding. And while I'm coding, I also modify my spec because I realize simpler ways to do things.
And that's how you're able to, like, sometimes you'll be like, oh, I'm going to go for a walk, and you'll be like, oh, I figured it out, car.
Yep.
It was this. That's how you're able to figure it out when you're going for a walk, is because you're looking at the spec in your head?
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about it, and my subconscious is also working on this stuff. And my subconscious happens to be smarter than my conscious mind.
Really? Why do you say that?
Because it figures stuff out. I trust it, and I go on walks.
You lean into it.
Yeah, I go on walks, and I don't consciously think about the thing I'm working on, but my subconscious is, and then it'll inform me the solution when I am done with my walk. Or so usually near the beginning of my walk, it actually figures it out for me, and then tells me what my subconscious tells my conscious mind the solution.
You know what I've been doing? It's kind of similar, but kind of different. Like I'll have an idea in my head that I know what's going to do. And then like during the whole day or during that week, I'll see different things and I'll pick that up and I'll note it in my mind. Like, oh, it was that color of orange of that chair, and notate it. And then I keep going throughout the day, and I'll be like, oh, that word was displayed here. No. And I'll eventually the whole week will come and I'll have like this full on, the idea, the imagery in my head, but it has all this stuff that I've attached from that week added to it.
Yeah. I like brains. Brains are sweet.
Yeah, it's just like attacking the problem, which way.
Abstractly.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
I like it. It works for me.
Yeah, it does. Did you ever get to talk to any of the people? Like, I know I saw you talking to Fabrice. Like any of the people from Bitcoin Plus Plus. Did you get to meet Adam Back or?
I did meet Adam Back.
What? You didn't tell me this.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, he was certainly there. And
what did you tell him?
I told him about my Bitcoin lottery protocol. Because
what did he say? Was he happy about it?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, wow, cool.
I told him because it was based on an idea he had a long time ago, which was back in 2013, he wrote a paper with another guy whose name I forget. And I'm going to call him Sam because he's going to come up later in the story. But his real name's not Sam. I just forget what it is. Adam Back wrote a paper with a guy named Sam about doing a fair coin toss on Bitcoin. And it was based on this idea from 1980s where a guy wrote a paper about how to do a coin toss over the telephone using hashing functions where like the one guy on the phone picks heads or tails and then gives you the hash of his pick, and then you have to guess heads or tails, and once you guess, then he reveals what he hashed, what his commitment was, and if you guessed correctly, then you win, or if you didn't guess correctly, then he wins. Anyway, Adam Back came up with a way to implement this in Bitcoin along with Sam, and then they wrote a paper about it. And my lottery protocol was a way of expanding that out to any number of players. Well, actually, any number less than 8, which isn't that many. But it expanded it to be a multiplayer lottery instead of a 2-player coin toss. So I told Adam Back about this and then showed him my implementation. I didn't show him. I told him I implemented it. Because as far as I know, no one had ever implemented the coin toss thing that Adam Back had proposed. And so he was happy, and he was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. No, because he didn't know if anyone had ever implemented it either. And he said, you should tell Sam. It was mostly Sam's idea, and I just proposed a couple of minor things.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he said, you need to email Sam, because Sam would be really excited about this. But he seemed excited, too. He liked it.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you talking to Fabrice, too. It was so awesome. It was like, he had questions for you.
Fabrice, so for those who don't know, Adam Back is he's one of the best Bitcoin programmers ever. He was actually programming digital currencies before Bitcoin existed. He worked on Xiaomi and eCash back in like the late 80s and early 90s with David Chaum. And then now he works on Bitcoin. He was also on the Bitcoin or on the cryptography mailing list that Satoshi proposed Bitcoin on.
Oh, he was on there too? Oh, yeah, of course, right?
Of course. That was everyone in the David Chaum group was in there because he was trying to do this stuff before anyone else. And Adam Back was one of his employees back then. Anyway, Adam Back now works on Liquid. Liquid is like his company, and he makes Bitcoin sidechains. Anyway, he is really cool. And the other guy who, I forget why, there was another, Fabrice Drouin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this, I'm probably not pronouncing his last name correctly because that doesn't sound very French. He's a French Bitcoin developer who made the company called ACINQ, ACINQ, and their implementation of a Lightning node called Eclair. So
yeah,
that's Fabrice Drouin, and I talked to him too, and he attended my talk on tenacity.
That was such a great talk.
That was fun.
So good.
And then he suggested some. He wanted me to use some of their code
cool.
to solve some of the problems I mentioned in my tenacity talk.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
Did you have a person that you met at Bitcoin Plus Plus where you're kind of like surprised you got to meet him and you're like, oh wow, or were somebody like you met and you're like, whoa, they're actually way cooler in person than I would have ever imagined. Merch was like that for me when I met Merch. Mm-hmm. He was like that for me. I was like, whoa, you see this guy on Twitter. I didn't know of anything other than what his Twitter and then like I meet him in person. He's like even better, amazing person. In person, like
the one that I had the most fun with and I didn't expect to have fun doing this was the Ordinals guy.
The who?
The Ordinals guy.
Who's that?
I don't know his real name.
The Ordinals. What is Ordinals?
He told me it's fine if I call him the Ordinals guy. But I forget what his real name is. If you go to like ordinals.com or ordinals.net or .org or .io, he made this protocol for assigning serial numbers to Satoshis. And
serial numbers to Satoshis?
Yeah. So like every Satoshi that's ever been created, he defined a protocol for giving it a unique serial number.
Why?
Because he thought it'd be fun. And so he did. And then you can, if you have a Bitcoin wallet, you can see, if you download this protocol, you can actually see what index numbers or what serial numbers your Satoshis have that are in your wallet. And you can be like, oh, mine, I've got Satoshi number 5,256,953. And it's kind of fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So he was the most interesting guy that you met at Bitcoin.
Well, I didn't expect to have a lot of fun meeting the Ordinals guy, and I did because one of the things he did was he made some paper wallets that had Taproot private keys on them.
Okay.
And he put some Satoshis in them, and he wrote on the paper
the serial number,
their serial numbers for those Satoshis based on this protocol he did. And then one of his challenges was, can you get the Satoshis off of this paper wallet? Which is hard to do because most wallets don't support Taproot yet. So you can't just like import the private key because your wallet won't know what to do with it since it's Taproot and not a normal.
How much
Bitcoin
Satoshis did he have on there?
It was like each paper wallet had 10,000 sats in it.
Whoa, nice little project.
Yeah, so I was the only one, I think, who did it. And
you did it?
Yeah.
Of course you did.
I figured out, with help from some of the other people there, I figured out how to do it, how to get the private key, turn it into something I could import into Bitcoin Core, which is one wallet that does have support for Taproot.
Did you grab all the papers after that?
No, well,
you just sweep them all up. You're like, here, pull a car, I need your cap, and you just start putting all the papers in there. You can do it later.
I helped two other people get their sats.
Oh, that was nice of you.
Where I went through the same procedure and converted the Taproot private key into a what's it called? A descriptor, a wallet descriptor, I think they call it, which is how Bitcoin Core deals with Taproot. And then I had to construct a transaction manually to send the coins from there into a normal Bitcoin wallet, one of my existing ones that doesn't support Taproot. So I did all that, and then I showed two other people that I did it, and they asked me to get theirs off of their wallets, so then I sent them into their wallet.
That's cool.
Bitcoin wallets. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
But I had a tremendous amount of fun doing that and talking to the Ordinals guy about his protocol.
The Ordinals guy?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Whose name you don't remember? Yeah, you're so bad with names.
I am. Much better with protocols.
What's my name again?
Your car.
Okay, there you go. You do.
You're just car.
Okay. Just making sure you know my name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good times, man. Bitcoin Plus Plus was a lot of fun. Oh man, what a great time.
Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, I think that's all I got. You got Oh, I will tell you this. Not having you at Pleb Lab for those 2 weeks. Yeah, dude, you could feel it. Like it was. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff going on, but you really bring the lab into the Pleb Lab. No, it's just like we're all working, and Keon was there, and John, like we were all there. It's just like, but it didn't have that same life.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
We started getting used to it in the second week towards the end, but it was not the same.
And you're like, you know what? I kind of like not having hair.
No, it was just like it's something. You're special, man. That's all I'm saying. You're very special. You bring something unique into that lab, and I can't wait till we move into the new Pleb Lab because I think you're gonna it's gonna be like completely amazing to see how that vibrancy
See if Super can thrive in a new environment.
No, it's not that. I know you can. It's just like seeing
what happens if we uproot him from his natural habitat and place him into this other environment?
No, it's just yeah, man. I'm trying to say, man, I love you and you're special, and like I know you know that already, but
thank you, Qua.
When
I like you too.
When people are gone, you can really feel it. Yeah.